I came home during my lunch break. My husband was in the bathroom with our neighbor. I locked the door. Then I called her husband. Come over. Now, I said. You need to see this. What he saw. But before we continue, please tell us which country you're listening from and how old you are. We love learning about our audience. Enjoy the story. I had run home at noon to grab some documents and found my husband with our neighbor in my bathroom. I locked them from the outside and called her husband. There are moments in life that flip you inside out in a single second. Everything you thought was solid and predictable suddenly crumbles at your feet, and you stand there among the shards trying to understand how you're supposed to breathe now. For me, it happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was 34 at the time, and my name was Evgenia Belova. Now I'm an older woman, telling this story calmly, but back then everything in my life went by the book. I worked as a claims specialist at a major insurance company. My husband and I had a neat little townhouse in the Moscow suburbs, inside a gated courtyard with identical bushes and perfectly straight walkways. Our neighbors felt like family. Closest of all was Karina Kolesnikova. She lived across from us with her husband Leonid and their 2 children. Karina and I had Sunday coffee together, exchanged recipes, watered each other's plants when someone went out of town. I trusted her. I trusted my husband. I trusted my life. The morning had started like any other. At 6:30, I put on the coffee. Maxim went to take a shower. Then the news humming under the kettle, a quick breakfast. Lately, he had been staying home more often. He'd set up an office in our guest room and was working remotely. See you tonight, he called from the office as I was closing the door. I had no idea those were the last normal words between us. And yet something in the air felt wrong. During breakfast, Maxim kept glancing at his phone. I asked if everything was all right. He waved it off, smiled, politely but not genuinely. On my way to work, there was a tight knot of worry sitting inside me. I tried calling him closer to lunchtime. The line was busy. A small thing happens to anyone, but the uneasy feeling stayed. While sorting through my cases, I realized I had left a folder at home, and I absolutely needed it for the midday meeting. I told my supervisor I'd step out for an hour, grabbed my keys, and drove off. The drive from the office to home took about 15 minutes. I thought I'd run in, grab the papers, maybe even catch Maxim in the kitchen and have a quick bite together, then head back. Life loves to laugh at simple plans. I spotted Karina's car near our porch already from the intersection. Strange. She always parked at her place directly across from ours. I unlocked the door with my key and immediately heard silence. The wrong kind of silence. If Maxim was home, he always had music playing. If Karina had dropped by, you'd hear voices, laughter, dishes clinking. But here, nothing. Just a muffled stillness. Maxim, I called from the hallway. No answer. The floor in the corridor was empty, nothing out of place. Her sneakers usually stood near the door when she stopped by. Today, nothing. The kitchen looked exactly as I had left it in the morning. Plates in the sink, a mug with my lipstick mark, a napkin pushed toward the edge of the table. I walked deeper into the house and listened. That's when I heard it, water. The steady sound of the shower, coming from our bedroom, from that bathroom where Maxim and I shared the mirror, the shelf for creams, and our 6-month plans. My first thought was simple: he's taking a shower. But then why was Karina's car at our doorstep? Where was she? And why was the house so silent? I went upstairs. The staircase creaked under my foot, and my heart slammed against my ribs so hard it made breathing difficult. I tried to find a logical explanation, grasping at every straw. Maybe Karina stopped by to borrow something. Maybe their shower broke, and Maxim offered her ours. Nonsense, of course, but in moments like these the brain is ready to invent any fairy tale just to avoid shattering the world, you know. The bedroom door was slightly open. The sound of running water grew louder, and then I heard whispering. Not even words. Soft, close voices, the way people speak nose to nose when they're trying not to be heard. My hand trembled. Inside me, 2 voices rose at once. One whispered, "Turn around. Leave. Drive back. Pretend you were never here." The other, cold and dry, said, Enough. You need the truth. Now, I moved closer. Each step felt sticky, like in a bad dream where your legs are heavy but you keep walking anyway. I stopped at the bathroom door. My hand lifted to the handle on its own. For a second I closed my eyes and inhaled, deep, until it hurt in my chest. Somewhere far away, as if in another life, I heard his morning, "See you tonight." And I understood that tonight would never come. Right before everything turned upside down, one last ordinary thought flashed through my mind. Our courtyard where children ride scooters in circles. Our shared holidays. That photo album from Sochi. Barbecues in the yard. Those matching silly Christmas pajamas last year. How easily we trusted. Leaving keys with neighbors, watering each other's plants. Karina knew exactly when I left for work and when I returned. And Maxim had been spending longer and longer in the shower lately. To relax, I opened my eyes and felt the cold metal under my fingers. I pushed the handle. The door opened easily, and everything happened at once. Steam, the roar of water, white tiles, and the two of them in my shower, Maxim and Karina. Bound to each other so completely it was as if the house, the people in it, and their own conscience simply did not exist. Water ran down their shoulders, down their arms, and he was kissing her in a way he hadn't kissed me in years. I saw it, and I understood the most important thing. This wasn't the first time. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't faint like people love to say. Something inside me clicked, and a cold clarity washed over me. As if I stepped out of my own body and was watching from above, calm and clear-headed. "Don't move," I said in a voice that didn't sound like mine. "Stand exactly as you are." Maxim jerked, tried to climb out, covering himself with a towel. "Genya, wait. This isn't... I can explain." "Stay," I repeated, and he froze. Karina looked away, pressing her wet hair to her chest, whispering my name like an excuse. "Genya." I closed the door, turned the key. The click rang in my ears like a gunshot. "Genya, what are you doing?" Karina's voice cracked into a shriek. "Sit there and think," I answered steadily. "I have a few calls to make." In the bedroom, I picked up my phone. My fingers trembled, not from hysteria, but from a quiet, unfamiliar anger. I opened my contacts, found Leonid. I had dialed that number hundreds of times, for small neighborly things, for holidays. But never like this. He answered on the second ring. "Genya? Did something happen?" "Lenya, come to my house right now," I said in the same even tone. "It's important. You need to see this." He paused for a fraction of a second, exhaled heavily, like a man whose heart already understood but whose mind still hoped. "I'm on my way." I set the phone down and sat on the edge of our bed. The very bed where Maxim and I shared a blanket and our plans. Where I once dreamed about vacations and new furniture. The room tightened around me with a ribbon of silence. From behind the bathroom door came rustling, hushed whispers, then dull thumps against the panel. "Genya, this is insane. Open the door. Let's talk." Maxim's voice was muffled by the water. "We'll talk," I said. "A little later." And then the second wave came, not of panic, no, of understanding. The signs had been there. He was working from home more often. His showers had become long. To relieve stress, he started placing his phone face down. Karina had begun stopping by constantly. Salt, flour, a baking mold, things she'd never needed before. Her clothes changed too. More revealing, more polished, on the days when I stayed late at the office. And their new habits. His sudden gym sessions, her sudden headaches. The phone vibrated in my hand. A message from Leonid. "On my way. 15 minutes. I replied, "Come in," without knocking. "Door is open." From downstairs drifted the familiar smells. Our laundry detergent, my hand cream, the morning coffee we didn't finish. And yet life had already shifted, like furniture after a rearrangement. Everything was still in its place, and somehow nothing looked familiar. "Genya." Another thud on the door. "Open up. Let's talk like adults." I looked at the handle they were gripping from the inside and was surprised by how calmly I was breathing. You talked like adults beforehand, I said quietly. Now you wait. Minutes stretched unhurriedly. I heard them whispering, then snapping at each other. You said she wouldn't come home. You rushed me, and somehow that was its own strange comfort. Even caught red-handed, they lacked the courage to take even a sliver of blame. The screen lit up again. I'm here. I stood up just as the doorbell rang. I went downstairs and opened the door. Leonid stood there on the threshold, in his work overalls, disheveled, with the look of a man who already knows, but is still clinging to hope. Genya, what happened? You sounded. I dropped everything and left the site, he said, breathing heavily, still wearing his work gloves. Come in, I said. This concerns you directly. We walked inside. He looked around the house out of habit, but his gaze caught on the small things. My bag tossed on the console table, the half-finished morning mug, the silence that felt like an empty train station. I raised my hand, not wanting to drag it out. Karina is in my bathroom, I said. With Maxim. I locked them in. The pause was short, like the click of a switch. First confusion, then disbelief, then slow, heavy understanding, the kind that feels like the floor giving way under your feet. What do you mean, with Maxim? He asked, though his tone made it clear he already knew. Exactly what it sounds like, I said quietly. I caught them together. They're behind the door. Leonid leaned against the doorway, closing his eyes for a second. I saw his gloved fingers tremble. The kids, he said to no one. How am I supposed to explain this to them? I nodded toward the stairs. Come upstairs. There's something you need to see. In our bedroom, everything looked exactly as I had left it that morning. On Maxim's bedside table lay his phone, black screen, no case. He always said people who trust each other don't need passwords. Oh, the irony. I picked up the phone, swiped, no lock screen. Messages opened instantly. The chat with Karina lit up. A long ribbon of gray and green bubbles stretching back months. I scrolled up and read a random message aloud. Good morning, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about you. Will you wait for her to leave? I'll pick you up in the parking lot. And another, Genya doesn't notice anything. We could even be in the living room. She wouldn't realize. Leonid listened without interrupting. I kept scrolling, as if vaccinating myself against illusions. Between the hearts and kisses were the mundane logistics, when she was at the doctor, when he was at the gym, when I had a migraine. Everything neat and scheduled like a commuter timetable. Here, I said, feeling my voice get steadier. 2 days ago. On the screen. Do you think it's time to tell them? Karina. Sometimes I feel guilty. Genya is a good person. His reply, not yet. We need her not to take half in the divorce. Give it a couple of weeks. We were silent. Only the sound of running water behind the wall broke the stillness. They were still standing in their little glass greenhouse. Leonid took the phone from my hand. Read slowly. His lips turned pale. He came across yet another joke about naive spouses and winced as if tasting something sour. He swallowed. They were doing all this the whole time while He didn't finish. And the money, I added evenly. Half. Scroll to drafts, I said. Search history. How to hide assets, how to protect savings, what gets split in divorce. A few things about crypto, advice from friends. Leonid nodded shortly to himself. Finally removed his gloves, gripping the phone so hard his knuckles whitened. Genya, he said hoarsely. I'm probably saying something stupid, but thank you for calling me. Better a bitter truth than a happiness like this. I looked at the bathroom door. Behind it, whispers started again. Muted pleas about let's talk calmly. But inside me nothing shook anymore. There was only a straight, cold rod of clarity. We need to document everything, I said, for the lawyers, for ourselves, so neither of them can twist this later into some mistake. Leonid nodded. He tried to say something about the boys, stuttered, exhaled, lowered his eyes to the screen. A message popped up above. old, but cold enough to send a shiver down my back. Once I'm rid of Genya, and you're rid of Lenya, we'll start a real life. He didn't collapse or scream. He just sat down at the edge of the bed, gripping the phone, suddenly as pale as the wall. Then a step creaked in the hallway. We glanced at each other. I realized it wasn't the house. Something inside me shifted and clicked into place. I sat next to Leonid and reopened the chat. Not to hurt myself anymore, but to complete the picture, no empty spots. We started from the very top. The first inappropriate message came right after that party at our place. We'd stayed up late, cards, laughter, wine. I even have a photo of the four of us in the kitchen, smiling like idiots. But in the phone, walk you to the door? From Maxim. Quiet. The kids are asleep. From Karina. Then, I can't stop thinking about your kiss. So the line was crossed that night, while Leonid and I were cleaning the table and going to bed. From there, everything was systematic. Weekdays, Dr. Jim, migraine. Meetings near the highway. The same roadside hotel room every time. Even the same emoji before the address. Sometimes the metro parking. I'll be there in 12 minutes. Wear a hoodie. A few times, our house. Genya's in the office all day. They built a schedule on my trust. Look, I pointed at a date. Last Saturday. Leonid nodded automatically. I took the boys to the zoo. She said her head hurt and asked me to give her a quiet day. And Max said he had basketball practice. I added. He came home drenched. I actually believed it was from training. We scrolled on. Between Miss You and You're the Best came heavier things. How they calculated gaps in my work hours. Joked about clueless spouses. Once Karina wrote, Genya is so kind, we could do it in the living room and she wouldn't notice. Maxim replied, that's what makes you different from her. You're alive, adventurous. I kept reading and felt something strange replacing the pain. A calm clarity. Once the cards are on the table, illusions have nowhere to hide. Then came the life plans. Karina. Found a 3-bedroom townhouse so the boys can visit. Good district. Decent school if we fight for custody. Maxim. Perfect. Once I'm free from Genya and you from Lenya, we'll start a normal life. No more secrets. That phrase stuck in my throat. No more secrets. After 6 months of hiding spots, lies, and coded messages, Leonid sat hunched, reading slowly, as if weighing every word. A deep line formed between his brows. He stopped at another exchange. Karina complaining about her husband's insecurity, his stress at work, and Maxim replying dismissively, don't worry, he's always like that. I saw the corner of Leonid's mouth twitch. Not anger. Something gentler, sadder. Hurt for the life he had carried honestly. She was telling him what normally stays between spouses, he said in a low voice, and he was laughing. They made us the heroes of their jokes, I said. While eating in our kitchen and saying what great neighbors we are, we flipped to the search history. How to protect assets in a divorce, what to split, how to move money so that, then a set of words about crypto and friends' advice. Also, contacts of lawyers, a couple of draft emails to the boss complaining about the doctor. The picture was complete, not chaotic, but calculated. Genya, Leonid said quietly, do you have a way to save this? Screenshots, cloud storage, all that. I already do, I answered. And audio later. Let them tell it themselves, in their own voices. For a second, the water behind the bathroom door stopped. Then whispers. They seemed to be listening to our fingers tapping on the screen. Let them listen. Suddenly I felt a clear boundary. Right here, we on our side. And we have the truth, order, and documents. And there, they, in a locked cage, consequences of their own choices. You know what's the most bitter? Leonid asked, not lifting his eyes. Not the affair. That I was made an unwilling accomplice. I was taking care of the kids, freeing up her evenings, thinking I was helping. I helped too, I said. Worked late so Maxim could relax. Defended Karina when you complained she disappeared too often. In effect, we were turning on the lights for them so it was easier for them to lie. He sighed. put the phone on the table and for a moment covered his face with his hand. When he moved it away, his voice was calm. "All right, enough looking. We understand everything." "Yes," I said. The next step not on a screen. We both lifted our heads toward the bathroom door. From behind it came cautious voices. "Genya? Leonid? Let's talk like humans." I looked at Leonid. He barely nodded. "We're standing up." "It's time," he said. "Time to approach the door," I answered, stepping toward the handle. We got to the door. Inside, muffled whispers, a splash of water, then silence. I knocked once with my knuckles clear and firm. "Maxim," I said calmly. "Karina, we're talking now." First silence. Then Maxim coughed, trying to find the right tone. "Genya, no hysteria. We're adults. Open up. Let's get dressed, we'll talk." "You've already discussed everything," he said. 6 months straight. "Now it's my turn," I replied. Karina spoke in a thin, hurried voice. "Genya, I'm sorry. It happened. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. We fell in love." The word hung in the air. Leonid stood beside me, his broad shoulders blocking half the doorway. He spoke quietly, evenly. "Fell in love. That's when you come honestly and tell someone. Hiding in hotels and parking lots? That's a different word." Maxim behind the door chuckled nervously. "Feelings can't be chosen. We were going to speak, waiting for the right moment for it to be human." Leonid suddenly slammed his fist on the panel. "Not in anger, but to sober them up. Moment? After you already picked a 3-bedroom townhouse so my boys could go to the new school. After you, Maxim, studied how to hide money so Genya wouldn't take half." From the other side, a pause. Then Karina, barely audible. "How did you know this?" "Your texts," I said. "Very detailed. Very clear." Maxim spoke quickly, stumbling. "It's out of context. We got confused ourselves. We wanted good for everyone. Didn't mean to deceive anyone." 6 months, Leonid interrupted. "Every Tuesday, Thursday, and migraines on Saturdays. That's what didn't deceive anyone means?" Inside, the shower door creaked, the sound of towels rustling. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder. Red button, round, simple like a traffic light, turned toward the panel and said clearly, "Maxim, Karina. Repeat out loud when it started and what you intended to do next. About falling in love too. We need this recorded for the lawyers." And yes, I lifted my gaze, spoke calmly. "We're recording." Karina whimpered. "Genya, don't. We're neighbors, friends, kids. The kids will hear the truth from their parents," said Leonid. "But first, the truth from you." Maxim gritted his teeth, his voice hoarse. "All right, yes. We love each other. It started after your party. Met whenever possible. Wanted to say, but waited for the right when it would be convenient. And yes, I didn't want Genya, well, for her to ruin me. That's normal to protect what's yours. Normal is not hiding," I said. "Go on." He sighed, as if carrying his own words was a burden. Karina had been looking at apartments. They were planning to move in together, thinking how to arrange everything without a scandal. Wanted a life without secrets. Leonid let out a short, dry laugh. "No joy, no secrets. After half a year of hiding in someone else's shower? Fine. Anything else to add, Karina?" A long pause. Then quietly, on an intake of breath, I really thought it would be better this way, that we could explain everything. It's my fault. I'm sorry, Lenya. This will stay on the recording," he said. Behind the door, rustling again, someone pulled at the handle unsuccessfully. Maxim tried a businesslike tone. "Genya, open up. We'll get dressed, just talk. No theatrics." "The theatrics have been going on for 6 months," I replied. "Now it's documentary style." I brought the phone closer to the door. The red circle blinked. Recording started. We stepped back from the door and went downstairs. I placed the recorder on the bedroom table. The red dot glowed without us. Upstairs, voices would quiet, then flare again. "First, please, then excuses, then threats about lawyers and slander. The house breathed evenly, as if it weren't the center of a small earthquake right now. Let's start with the main thing, I said. Lawyers. My lawyer listened silently, only asked about dates a couple of times. Then short, businesslike. Evgenia, you have a strong evidentiary base. Chats, audio, attempts to hide assets. Take screenshots, make copies in the cloud immediately. From me, statements, motions. I'll handle the rest. And please, don't delete anything. Leave it as is. Leonid spoke to his lawyer. His voice trembled only at first, then steadied. Yes, I have the kids. Yes, there's a recording. Understood. He hung up, exhaled, said that in situations like this, chances with the kids are higher. Main thing, calmly and by procedure. Next came more complicated calls. I called Karina's mother. A warm voice that had cared for the grandchildren yesterday. Today was thin, like a thread. This is why she asked me to watch them? She whispered. Yes, I answered. I'm sorry. You should know, she said, crying. Lately, she's someone else. Take care of yourself. Meanwhile, Leonid reached Maxim's workplace. Spoke calmly, only facts, fake doctors, missed meetings, personal meetings during work hours. On the other end, the tone immediately became official. We will conduct an internal investigation. If confirmed, up to dismissal under regulations. Thank you for the information. While we ticked items off our lists, the walls upstairs seemed thinner. From the bathroom came nervous sounds. Genya, Lenya, come on, let's keep it clean. We'll work it out. You should have worked it out before someone else's shower, Leonid said, not raising his voice. We laid everything out on the table, copies in the cloud, files and folders, phones on charge. Pauses between calls filled with simple tasks. Pour water, adjust the couch pillow. In these small things, the sense of support returned, things in place, and the truth with us. Voices behind the door changed like weather. We love each other. Understand? Then, you're destroying everything. Then, don't tell anyone. On don't tell, I caught myself smiling calmly. Apparently, this is what my new character looks like. No hysteria, but firm. Next, Leonid asked. Next, the last step, I said. They leave, hear the rule, and go. We went upstairs. The landing was cool, a draft from the window. I took the keys from the table, the same cold, heavy ones. Leonid stood beside me, shoulder to shoulder. Inside it was quiet, apparently they were listening. Ready? I asked. Yes, he replied, calm step by step. I brought the key to the lock, felt the metal meet the keyhole. Held my breath for a second, just enough for my heart to make an extra beat. Turned the lock halfway. Click. The door slowly gave way. Steam exhaled into the corridor, carrying the scent of my shower gel. They came out one by one, clutching white towels. Maxim pale, eyes darting. Karina trembling, either from cold or fear. Maxim instinctively reached for my hand. I stepped back half a step. Don't touch me, I said quietly. Never again. Karina looked at Leonid. Lenya, please, let me explain. He raised his hand. Enough. All explanations are in your phones. Sit, I said, pointing to the edge of the bed. They obediently sat on the mattress like schoolchildren before a scolding. On the table above, the tiny red dot glowed, the recorder running. First, I walked slowly across the room so I wouldn't erupt in a scream. Now you will get dressed and leave my house. Maxim, tomorrow you'll take only what's necessary, and only accompanied by a police officer or neutral witness. Today I'm changing the locks. Genya, let's be reasonable. Maxim tried to find some footing. 8 years of marriage, we can see a psychologist, a priest, anywhere. Reasonable, not hiding a mistress in the bathroom. Reasonable is not calculating how to leave your wife with nothing, I replied. You've already tried that. Next, by the rules. Second, I continued. Our lawyers know. I have copies of the messages, the audio is recording, the timeline is ready. Maxim, your little plan to make sure Genya doesn't take half will end with you explaining it in the office. And yes, any attempt at pressure, threats, talking without recording, it goes into the case. He flinched but tried to smirk. Enough dramatizing. We're adults. We can handle this civilly. Civilly? It was before the hotels and migraines, Leonid said evenly. Now, consequences. He looked at Karina as if there were a glass wall between them. Your mother knows why you stayed with the kids yesterday. Your work knows about your sudden absences. And I'll tell the boys the truth carefully, without dirt. But no lies. Don't you dare talk to the kids. Karina snapped. They're little. I won't lie to anyone, he answered. You've already lied enough for both of us. Actions have consequences, Karina. You will bear them. I stopped in front of Maxim. He lifted his eyes, expecting the familiar softness. It was gone. Do you know what hurts the most? I asked calmly. Not that you cheated. Not that you tried to steal from me. But that you underestimated me. Your entire plan relied on me being weak. That I'd stay silent. That I wouldn't see. That I wouldn't act. Wrong. He blinked quickly, as if exposed to bright light. And you, Karina? I turned to her. You were in my home, drinking coffee with me, laughing in our kitchen, and at the same time making a schedule for when I leave and when it's convenient to lie. You called me a friend. Remember, that word no longer applies here. The ticking of the clock filled the room. I picked up their clothes from the chair and silently laid them on the edge of the bed. Next, step by step. Now you will get dressed. Take one bag with essentials each. Maxim, tomorrow with the police officer. Karina, you have exactly 1 hour to pack what you need and leave. The rest through the lawyers. Genya, Maxim started. Enough. I cut him off. Words ended. Leonid nodded. Stand up. They exchanged glances, empty, lost, like people after a fire. I picked up the keys from the vanity, felt the cold metal in my hand, and stepped toward the door, clearing the way. Let's go, I said. I'll open the door now. I touched the chain on the entrance. The house became so quiet that you could hear someone's teeth click. We stepped into the corridor. I swung the chain aside and opened the front door. They walked past, not raising their eyes, clutching bags and towels like shields. Maxim looked at me one last time, as if searching for the familiar softness. It wasn't there. That evening, I changed the locks. The next day, Maxim came with the police officer and took only the essentials. The rest, through lawyers by list and receipt. Karina's house had lights on until late. She packed and left within an hour. Leonid explained everything to the children in simple terms, without shouting or dirt. They cried, but they heard the truth. Then the procedure began. Empty words ended. Only documents remained. Messages and audio became the basis of the case. Attempts to scatter money were found and stopped. At the insurance company, I took a couple of days off and returned to work as if it were a straight road. Reading a policy, signing all by the rules. Maxim faced an internal investigation. His doctors and absences came up one by one. He was shocked to have to explain this at work, not at home. The divorce happened faster than I feared. When the facts are on the table, there's nothing to bargain with. He couldn't dictate terms or hide assets. I received what was due. No gifts from fate, but honestly, Leonid arranged for the children to live with him. He became calmer, occupied, but present. Exactly what they needed. And I found silence. Not emptiness, but silence. I took an old dream from a distant drawer, enrolled in abstract painting. Standing at the easel became therapy better than any conversation. In May, I went alone to the sea, along the Black Sea coast. No rush, no plans, just watching the water and breathing. I met people who didn't know me as Maxim's wife. I liked how easy it was to talk to them. I remodeled my home too. Removed heavy curtains, repainted walls, replaced bedroom furniture. Threw away everything that smelled of other people's habits. No crime scene, now it's a place of calm. Where the kettle whispers evenly, books stand spine forward, windows open without squeak. A year later, I ran into Maxim at the supermarket. He had aged, as if the air had been drained from him. With a cart by the apples, he stopped and said, "Genya, I'm sorry for everything." And I realized, inside me, there was neither anger, nor love, nor hatred. Empty and clear. Indifference like a closed door. "I know," I said, "but I don't need it. Thank you for saying it." I walked past without looking back. Their romance with Karina didn't survive noise, money, or their own choices. When love depends on secrecy, it burns out quickly in the light. Everyone got their due. Not from us, but from life. Time passed. 2 years from that Tuesday. I look at my home and realize now it's truly mine. Not just the walls and furniture. Silence, order, the smell of paint and coffee. I became different. Not better or worse, just honest with myself. At work, I'm valued for my calm head. In the studio, hairdryers and paints roar, and no one asks whose assistant I am. Leonid became the father he wanted to be, and we stayed close, without promises, without illusions, just with respect. That's enough. Sometimes women write me asking how I endured. I answer directly, I didn't endure alone, the truth did. When you stop pretending what's right and accept things as they are, fear loses its grip. This is not a story of revenge. This is a story of reclaiming your life. Not immediately, and not by someone else's rules. The moral is simple. Trust is not a free resource. If it's broken, you have the right to leave and close the door behind you. The right to live without hidden compromises, without just endure a bit more, without other people's schedules. Sometimes marriage ends. It's not a failure, nor a mark on the forehead. It's a new chapter where you have your voice and your mirror. If you read to the end, thank you. Take care of yourself. Comment where you're from and the time there. And yes, support is important. Like, subscribe. It helps this and other stories reach those who need them. Life goes on.